Welcome back, Mumfy Mafia. Hope you're all doing well. In today's video, we're going to be kicking off the first install of the new year. We're going to be putting in the Midland MXT275 VP4 into the Tacoma. Let's get going. All right, now, as I mentioned in my unboxing video, this particular kit comes with two antenna options. One being this small, thin antenna with a thin cable that plugs into the back of the main unit. This does come with a magnetic base. As you can see here, don't worry, this is my door sill protection from Screen Protect. But you can mount this to any of the metal spots on your truck and then run this cable, this kind of thinner cable, down inside and hook it into your controller. Or you can go with the hood mount option, which looks like this, has a little bit thicker cable, and you'll utilize the small stubby antenna. I'm also going to end up hardwiring this to the inside of the truck, so that way when the truck turns on, the radio turns on. When I turn the truck off, the radio will turn off as well. So let's get going. All right, one thing I want to mention before we actually start getting into actually mounting the control box mount, I already have it set up. The kit comes with 3 screws. You can actually screw the mount into the plastic if you don't have the Cali raised molly panels like I have in my Tacoma. If you decide to go the route that I have with the Cali raised molly panels, you'll want to run to Home Depot and pick yourself up a set of 1/8 by 1 washers and a pack of number 6 32.5 inch bolt and nut setup. Now, the reason I am setting this up this way is so that it attaches to the molly panel and it's secure. Because where the mounting holes are on the actual mount, it doesn't line up perfectly where I want them to. So I'm going to bring you in and show you how I've mounted this up. All right, now as I bring you in here, you can see how I have it mounted to the Cali raised molly panels. You have a couple of slots here where you can actually place your screws if you're going to go into the factory plastics. But because I didn't want to do that, I wanted to utilize the molly panel. I could have mounted it to these holes here, but I was concerned about being able to open my storage compartment here. So I actually went down. There's another hole that's right here that this one is screwed into, and then I'm actually into one of the molly panels. You can see there I've got the washer up against the molly panel tied in with the nut going through there. So that's how I have the main mount for the main unit. So now I can slide the main unit in there. I can run my power back where I need to, but that is mounted and it's not going to interfere with my storage box. All right, now I want to check to make sure that my hood mount is actually going to fit where I want it to. And I'm not going to mount it to my hood. I'm actually going to mount it right here on my SDHQ ditch light bracket. Now, I went ahead and tested this already, and what I found out is because the wire works its way in this way on the bracket, it's not going to connect, or it's not going to fully seat on the fog light or on the ditch light bracket. So I'm going to have to run this. I'm going to have to feed this wire back through and make sure that I can get this to seat properly. So it's going to be on the outside running down underneath. Next, after that, is I'm going to take this end and I'm going to run it down in through the firewall. And what I'll have to do first is untwist this top. So that way it makes it a little smaller so I can push that through the firewall, and then I'll reconnect this once I run it over to the control box. As you can see here, I do have my antenna mount mounted to my SDHQ ditch light bracket. I had to do a little bit of modification to the back just so that I could get the wire out. If this is the route that you're planning on going or doing, check your thickness on your ditch light bracket. You may have to open the hole in the back of that fog light bracket in order to fit this through, because this nut is actually designed not to pull through. You'll need to open the hole on the back end of that in order to get the wire out. Or if you decide to just mount that bracket to the hood, you won't have to worry about it. It's thin enough. It's made to kind of go on the edge of the hood. And I have the wire running behind this gasket here, which is where I actually have all my wires. Even my ditch light wire runs behind this little gasket here and then runs into the engine bay. All right, lastly, before I kind of wrap this whole thing up for the night, as I have very low light, is I'm actually going to run this wire in through the firewall, so that way I have this inside the truck. And you can do this with a coat hanger. I have my trusty long screwdriver here, my nice long screwdriver. I'm just going to electrical tape the end of this to my screwdriver and then run that through the gasket that I've run most of my other wires that needed to go inside the cab. But that gasket right there, where the blue wire is going into, that's where I'm going to run the antenna cable into. All right, as you can see, got the wire pulled through the firewall. It comes out right through here. And I'm just going to pull this wire into the cab. It's eventually going to run across and back behind the console to connect into the main unit. That'll be the next steps. All right, so last night I did run out of light, but where we left off was I just ran the external antenna cable in through the firewall, and it is sitting inside of the truck. Next steps is going to fish that line over to where the control box is, make sure that that's plugged in. Then we're going to take the power wire and actually fish it back the other way, so that way we can hook it up to a fuse, so that way when the truck turns on, the radio will turn on, and when the truck turns off, the radio will turn off as well, thus not being a vampire of the power in the battery. So let's get going. And when you do run this cord through, there's a little section right here where the carpet separates. You can actually run your wire directly straight through and grab it on the other side, which makes it really simple because there's actually nothing back behind here to catch on or that you need to really worry about when you're pushing the line through. So that's really nice. Now that we're on the passenger side, you can see that it just comes right through the back here. We've got enough to reattach the connection that we took off. So I'll just take off this electrical wire, and then we can run the power back on over and through. All right, next up, we have to run power through the power cable. So we're going to take the cigarette, the DC plug that it comes with. It does have an inline fuse, which is really nice. But if you want to continue utilizing your cigarette lighter for, say, a spare phone charger, this isn't going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut that off, and then we'll be splicing in on these wires. We got to run it back through. All right, as you can see, we've pulled it through. We'll just kind of keep going. Make sure that we have enough so that way we can ground it over here. And we'll tie all this loose wiring back up underneath so that way it's not in the way. Grab our addafuse. Now what I have added on the addafuse is a 10 and a 15. Now underneath we're going to connect to the fuse panel that's inside the truck, just underneath the hood latch. But you'll want a 10 and a 15. We are going to be replacing a 15 fuse that's underneath there. ourselves a good crimp. All right, next up we've got our ground. I'm going to take a 16 or a 22 to 16 fork connection. Get that on there. This is the factory fuse cover. We're going to be going over to the passenger side, and we're going to come down 3 to where it's this 15 amp fuse panel, and that's what we're going to tie into. As I bring you in here, you'll see this blue 15 amp fuse. That's the one we're going to pull. I've already kind of got it started. Now this is a micro fuse or a mini fuse, but you still can use a normal size. So we're just going to plug that, add a fuse back in there with the 10 and the 15, and then we'll just reroute this main power up underneath so it's not tying into our feet. And we will need to remove this kick panel, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. That should come just right off. Now there is a factory ground that's back behind all this, right here, that we're going to go ahead and tie into. All right, I have everything hooked up now. So the ground, which is back here, and then up top, I've hooked this into that 15 fuse up here. Now make sure that you kind of run your wires nice and clean. And if you want to hide your ground wire behind these, you can go ahead and unplug this 3 set, which I actually recommend, these 3 connection plugs that are all right here. You can pull them out. It'll give you a cleaner access to the ground bolt that's behind here, and then you can run your wires back behind that, so that way when you put your kick panel back on, all this is nice and tidy. One thing to note is that now that you've added a fuse, you won't be able to put your cover back on, so just be sure to keep this handy. And now we should be ready to test to make sure that the radio works. All right, just have my keys here just in case. I have the speaker or the handheld. Now we're ready to plug this in, so let's go ahead and plug this in. I do have everything attached back here, so we'll go ahead and plug this in. Easy as that. I'll go ahead and give the truck some power. Hold down the power button, and we have function. Nice. And then as we turn the truck off, power goes off, and now the power to the mic is off. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this install on the MXT275 VP4. Got it working. Obviously you can hear a little bit of Morse code going on, but it is pretty cool to actually have this in the vehicle now, so that way I can have comms in case I need it. If you like this video, please be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment down below. Is this an option that you are looking for? If you are interested in picking one up, I will have a link in the description box below. And thank you so much for joining me. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.